Well, the first thing we need to do is load the bale in the machine. So the easy way is we just stand it up on its end, place the wheels on, now we just wheel it in, 3-point linkage up. Now, you'll notice that when we use our bales on the Michael's orchard, we wrap it with shrink wrap at the end of the year. It's a good way of keeping it tidy and keeping the moisture out. So we remove the shrink wrap. Now that the bale's in the machine, it's important that the net feeds out from the front of the roll, not the rear. So from the front, and you can just put it up through there, and that's as far as we need to go at this stage. I'll just now explain to you about the brake. As you can see, the wheels will spin out pretty easily. So there's a brake mechanism, which is this, and that keeps tension on the bale for when you're feeding it out, it doesn't overrun. So that's what this is used for. Okay, now we've moved the tractor into the row there now, and we'll show you how to set the boom. So the important thing is you have someone up here that pulls the pin. We now bring this around, and we bring it around to a position where you line the centre of the boom here up with the row, because what that'll do is give you a nice even spread of the net over the row. Now that we've got the angle, we now need to set this part up. Now this one swings around. Now you can vary this to suit the height of the tree or the width of the row. But it's important that when you set it, that it's at 90 degrees to the row. So we'll go ahead and put the pins in now. Now, with the boom, there's a very important safety feature. The tractor driver must make everybody aware of when the boom's going to go up and down. So he should say boom up, and everyone will be aware then that it's going up, and the boom coming down, and he must make sure that everybody understands when he says boom up and boom down to be very careful. We now need to thread the net up through the machine, but it's not safe to be climbing up and down on the machine, so at no times you do that. The easiest way is to have a rope, and we need to just throw it up over the top of these horns there at the top. Just throw it over like so, and what we need to do is have it coming out on that side. So we just put him over there like that. Well, we've got it over the horns at the top now. It's just important that we just get it through that section there, or what we call the outrigger, and then now you can just simply put it back to the back there. The next step, the important thing when threading it, you'll notice that the tree is on this side of the machine, so we bring the rope to this side. So we come in from here, we just put it through that top eyelet there, then down onto the net. Just a simple loop in the end is all that's really needed. Just put it on like so, and now we'll get one of our workers to just pull it through. So that just goes up and over. Now, with this, it's very important that you pay attention to this, because the way that we've threaded it through is something that we've worked out over the years is a lot easier way. The manufacturer does give you instructions here, but that is for a different style of net, and we find that it's not as easy to do it that way. This is by far the easier way. It can go straight up and straight over that side. If the row was on the other side, well, you could thread it to the other side, but nearly always you'll work to the right hand side. You'll notice now that it's gone over that we've actually have a twist up here. So it's important that we get that twist out of it before we keep going. It's very important that you get all the twists out before you start to apply. So it's fairly simple. We've got the workers here, they've spread the net, so now they just need to put one side over the top and the other one underneath. Now when they spread, you'll notice that that comes out. Now you'll be able to see up the top that the net can now spread evenly, and that's the way you want it. Before you start every row, you must have it out and nice and even, no twists, otherwise it just makes things too hard when you're going along. As you can see now, the tractor driver has moved forward and we've started to put the net on, and as you can see, it's a nice even spread over the row. It's very important that you anchor the net well to the first tree, because as you go along there's a chance that it'll want to pull up and pull off the first tree. So our team here will just go ahead and tie it on there now. Now zip ties are what we use, it's been the best. Now this method can vary a little bit for those growers who have a trellis and maybe they've got a wire and an anchor post down here. That's the best place to tie it to. You can tie it to the anchor post. In our case we don't, so we just simply tuck it up, clear of the ground so that your slasher or the weed sprayer doesn't get it, and you must tie it onto a fairly substantial limb. You can't go, when you tie on, you really don't tie to anything smaller than your finger, because you need a bit of strength to make sure it holds, okay? So that's pretty simple. We now need to go ahead. We have a person on either side. You'll notice the boom, how it goes down and there's a little turn. What you'll find is this guy on this side needs to keep it down in the eye, and the same on that side, and you can see that it will naturally just spread the net as the tractor goes along. You can see we've anchored the net to the tree, a nice even spread. You'll notice that the boom comes down and has a turn up. It's important that the operators, the people pulling down, keep it down into here, and as the tractor driver moves along, they just simply guide it along, keeping it into there. Now when you're going along, just a nice walking pace is good. Now as you can see, it's important that the net is kept down into the eye, and it's also important that you don't have any dips in the net, that you keep it tensioned and it just goes across the top of the tree. You don't want it hollowing down into the trees, because it won't go on as well. So as the operators get used to it, you can travel a little bit faster, but it's just nice to go along at a walking pace and have the centre of the boom about 1 metre to 1.5 metres above the tallest tree. Now we're able to keep that tension on the net because of the brake mechanism. We've now applied the net. The next step is to tie it down. Now we need to, depending on the height of the tree and where the net falls to, you need to pick a fairly substantial branch, and this of course will vary between the varieties of the tree, so you just need to be able to pick something that's about finger thickness and not much less. You'll notice that we have rolled the net up here a little bit. The reason is the net's a little bit longer than where the limb falls, and you need to have just a nice, a little bit of tension. Not too much, but just a nice bit of tension to where the net will just hang there by itself. So we just simply go along now. Again, depending on the variety and the spacings of the trees, but about every, say, 5 metres, roughly 4 to 5 metres, it should be anchored down again. So we'll miss this one because we don't need to. We can come to here where we have another fairly substantial branch, and we'll just get Rob to tie that one on there. As you can see, I just scrunched him up a little bit and you'll get it nice and even. Usually you have 2 operators, one either side, and try and work even, because that way you can keep the net. If it needs to come over a little bit, you can always just pull it over, or the other guy can pull it over and tie it nice and neat. Obviously you want to try and get it as low as possible, but again, you can only tie on to where the substantial branches are. As you can see, we've been able to keep the tension nicely across the top there as it sits on all the trees, and there's no dipping down. That's what you want to avoid, any dipping in between the trees. You'll notice here where we've pulled up, because the tension's come off, you can see how it wants to dip in. Now that is unsatisfactory. There will be times when you have a very windy day that you may not be able to keep it like that, and you'll need to put a little bit more tension on the brake. So the easiest way is just to have a 4 or a 5 litre container with a bit of water in it. You can just simply sit it on top of there, tie it on with a bit of rope, and away you go. That'll just put a little bit more tension, and that'll help keep it tight along the top. If it's a little bit too much, you can just simply let a bit of water out till you just get the right weight. And that's just a good trick, and it works well, and it helps you keep the tension right along the top, and it'll do a far better job. We'll just continue on and put some more net on. As you just remember, we explained about the brake, but it's working quite well without the extra weight, so we'll continue on. Now, as you've noticed, it's important the operators, they're keeping it down in the eye. The operator on the tractor side, you'll see, doesn't have to pull the net. What you're doing, you're letting the tractor do all the work, and the inside operator, all they're doing really is just simply guiding it down. The person on the outside does have to pull a little bit harder because the net just has to travel a little bit further, but it's not hard pulling. The thing to remember to remind everybody is don't pull the net out. You hold the net, you let the tractor move away, and you guide it down onto the tree. That's the correct way to do it. Now you'll understand the importance of not having any twists. You can see as it goes up, it goes out, and it spreads evenly, and it's not hard work at all. It'll just spread out and go over. So that's the easy way of doing it. Just a matter of going along at a nice, comfortable walking pace. And as I said earlier, roughly about the boom about 1 metre above the tree, and we just continue going. You can see that the people pulling down are not working hard, it's just a matter of guiding the net down as we go. We've been going along pretty steady because this is how you'll need to start out. But once your team's experienced, you'll be able to get along quite quicker. So I'll just pick up the pace to give you an idea of just what sort of pace you can work at. Now that's just on 3 kilometres an hour, which is pretty comfortable for the people behind. I mean, you can even go a little quicker if you wish, as long as they can keep up. I'm now up to 3.5 kilometres, and you know, that's still pretty comfortable for the people behind.